Hi everyone, it's Southern Magic, and I wanted to come on today and post a video about how to read tarot cards. So this is going to be about physically reading the actual card. So looking at the imagery and how we pull information from the image of the card. So this video is not going to cover how we shuffle them, how we store them. It's not going to be the whole process of reading tarots, but the actual act of reading the card. So I will be doing other parts and other series in my YouTube channel of different aspects of reading cards, but this video is going to be directly on reading the cards themselves. So when I first got my tarot deck, I had no idea how to read any of it. I had no idea what any of the cards were, any of the suits. I really had no idea. I was starting brand new. So if you are in my shoes right now, getting tarot, learning tarot, and you have no idea where to begin, this video is going to be for you. So the first recommendation that I would have is learning how the tarot is broken up into. So the tarot deck is 78 cards. Some tarot decks may have more or less depending on their adaptation, but the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck, the one that I am holding in my hands now, has 78 cards, as well as the majority of other tarot decks primarily have 78 cards. Now, these 78 cards are broken up. So they're broken up into two parts. So if you think of a tarot deck, think of it being broken up into two parts, okay? So one part we're going to have is the major arcana. The second part of the tarot is going to be the minor arcana. So the minor arcana is going to be our cup cards, our suit cards. So if we think of a regular playing deck, we have our suits. So in tarot, we also have suits, and we have 4 of them, and each of them represents one of the 4 elements. So we have cups. That is the first one. We have cups, which has to do with our emotions and the water element. We have wands, which has to do with action and the fire element. We have swords, which has to do with our thinking and the air element. And finally, we have pentacles, which has to do with our finances and deals with the earth element. So within the minor arcana, we have 4 sections, which is going to be the cups, the wands, swords, and pentacles. So that once you can learn that basic breakdown of the cards, it's going to help you organize the meanings and the general aspects of the cards into certain categories. So by breaking it up into the minor arcana first and then breaking it up into the suits, we can break down, and I'm going to just be pulling a random court card here. Okay, so we have the 7 of Pentacles. So if you draw a 7 of Pentacles, first, what suit is it? Is it a minor or a major arcana card? Okay? So if it is a minor arcana card, because it has one of the suits, which suit is it? So this particular one is Pentacles. So Pentacles has to do with earth and our finances and material matters. So if you just know that alone, if you could just learn the suits and what they mean, it's going to help your reading tremendously. So if you know that this card is about finances, you will be able to get a much more accurate connection with that card, knowing that basic meaning. Now, before I get into more about this particular card, let's look at a major arcana card. So major arcanas are not going to have any sort of suit. They're going to be on their own title, and there is 21 or 22 major arcana cards. So if you pull a card and it doesn't have any suit associated with it does mean that it is a major arcana. So the separation between the minor and the major is major arcana cards has to do with universal energies that are outside of our force, outside of our forces, outside of our control. So it is something that has to do with just the universe, a situation that we're put in because of the universe. It's putting us in that situation. We haven't done anything to really get that situation. It's just happening. So we can all relate to things randomly happening in our lives for no particular reason. That's going to be major arcana cards. What that is talking about is going to be those random occurrences. Now, minor arcana cards are going to be more specific. They're going to deal with aspects of our lives. So things that we actively are doing and putting ourselves in, things that we have full control of. So the minor arcana has to do with the physical realm, has to do with what we're working with, whereas the major arcana has to do with the universe and more of the bigger picture rather than just ourselves. So if you can learn those two to be able to distinguish between the two, the major and the minor, you will be able to get a much more accurate reading. Is this coming from a place that I'm putting myself in, or are these universal energies that I should be on the lookout for? So that's going to help your reading too, if you can break those down. Now, going back to a minor arcana card, let's start with, let me find a good example. Okay, so we're going to start with this one. This is the Ten of Cups. So once again, it's a minor arcana. So this card has to do with something that we have done in our own lives, something that we have control over. Cups has to do with water and emotions, and our friends, family, and any relationships that we have with others. So knowing that this is something that I have control of. So this card's talking about some emotion, some relationship, some exchange between you and another person going on, and it's bare minimum of the card. So if we look at the image, now that is why images and imagery are so good for tarot reading. So visual people, I'm a very visual person. That is why tarot is a good tool for me. If you're a visual person, that is why it works, because you will look at the card, and by looking at this card, we could see two figures standing here with two children before them and a rainbow across the sky. So this rainbow across the sky has 10 cups. So just by looking at this, what emotions are coming up when you look at this? When I look at this, I think of a family scene. The family is happy. The two parents are joined together, connected. They're watching their children play. There's a rainbow. There's clear sky. So I'm thinking of a family, happiness. There's really carefree. They're not worrying about anything. The children are playing in the yard. Everything's good. There's clear skies. It's a sunny day. So put yourself in the situation that the card is depicting and think about how you would feel if you were standing in this position. I would feel very happy because there's a loving family scene. There's a river running with lush garden, lush grass and trees in the background. So just from the image itself tells me a lot. It tells me there's a family going on. They're happy, they're playing. Both of the parents, their hands are up and they're enjoying, they're saying thank you to the universe. So that is what I'm seeing. There's also a house, so it might have to do with your home. So just that simple interpretation can really tell you about the card, because this card indeed does have to do with our family and our relationships and reaching that fulfillment. So just by looking at the images, you don't have to know anything about the tarot. If you pull this card, the Four of Cups, you're going to look at it. There's a person sitting here. He doesn't look happy. He looks bored. And there's a cup coming out of the blue being offered to him, and it looks uninterested. So even if you don't know that this card indeed does talk about not accepting stuff given to us because we're comfortable with what we already have, if you don't even know that and you just read the images off of the card, it will get you to that same conclusion. So that is why it's important to not get overwhelmed and not overstress yourself about learning all of the card meanings and everything like that, because you really can learn so much, and I think that it is quite beneficial to learn that way. Now, intuitively, intuitive readings are something that I do want to mention as well. So if you are reading, for example, the Strength card, a major arcana card, if I were to be reading this intuitively, I would be, instead of seeing the woman with her hand holding the lion's mouth shut, that's inner strength, which is seen here, maybe I notice the mountain in the background, and it's blue. So maybe when I see a blue mountain, I think of a family trip that I went on in Tennessee, say for example, and there was snow on the mountain. That's what I think of. So when I think of that trip, I'm thinking of family and happy memories and times. So if I'm doing an intuitive reading and that stands out to me and that comes in my mind, then what I'm going to tell my client is there's something going on with a relationship with a family. So there's happy memories going on. You may be traveling. I do see travel in the mountains. So it's about relating the random things that come in our heads when we see random things in the cards that if you look in a tarot guidebook, you might not find any information on, but for you personally, certain things represent things for you. That is why each tarot reader is going to provide a different reading to you. You could get a same type of reading from 5 different tarot readers and get completely different readings, different experiences. And that is because everyone reads their own personal way. Now, another thing that I do want to mention that is going to be quite useful with the minor arcana cards has to do with numbers and numerology. So I'm going to put some cards out in front of me just to kind of see, give me a good example to pull from. Okay, so I have 4 different numbers here. I'm first going to begin with the ace. So if you begin with ace, the number 1 in numerology on its own is a new seed, a beginning, something brand new. So if you combine the number 1 with Pentacles, which is an earth sign, it has to do with our finances and material matters. If you combined new beginnings, the number 1, with the Pentacle meaning, which is finances, the simple meaning of this card would be new finances, or new beginnings with your money, new beginnings with your material aspect. So you can combine the number meaning as well as the court card meaning and get a simple definition. So we're talking about new beginnings with finances, new beginning with material aspect. I see a hand being offered. So that would lead me to think that someone's going to offer you something. It's going to be up to you to take that. They're not putting it in your lap, they're holding it. It's still in this person's hand. It's up for you to take it out. So once you know the basic meaning, you can look at the image itself and build off of that. And that's going to help readings a lot more, and something that has really helped my readings is learning numbers. And it's not something fun to do. I personally, and I know it doesn't relate, but I hate math, and numbers in general, I don't like them. They confuse me, they give me headaches. So numerology was not something that I was excited about learning, but it is quite helpful with tarot. And you don't have to learn all these different numbers. It's just 1 through 10. So, and it is going to be a lot more helpful in regards to your tarot reading. Now, the number 2 has to do with another thing. So it has to do with choice. There's a choice going on. There's this option, this option. The number 2 also has to do with polarity and opposites, duality. So if you can think of duality, opposites, polarities, balancing, and then also this is a pentacle as well, so money. We're going to think of balancing 2 different options with our finances. Do we save completely all the way, or do we spend all of our money, or do we balance it out and meet somewhere in the middle? So that is how you can combine numerology with the tarot card. So 1 is new beginnings, and I'm going to go through 1 through 10 so that if you want to pause this video and write them down for your own reference, you can have them. So 1 is new beginnings, 2 is duality, choice, polarity, opposites, 3 is creation. So we have the 2, and the 2 come together to create this third force. So we have creation, we have expansion, we have new life. The number 4 is a very stable number. So if we think of a table or a chair, when you wobble the table, it doesn't wobble because it has those 4 legs. It's talking about foundation and stability. The number 5, after that, kind of throws everything off. So number 5 has to do with imbalance and unstable stuff. That is why in tarot, if you see these 2 cards here, the 5 of Swords and the 5 of Wands, both of them have to do with some imbalance going on in different aspects of our lives, but both covering imbalance. Now, the number 6, we're getting our balance back. It has to do with hard work. 6 is talking about the double of 3, so we are having that creation. It's a very high creative number. The number 7 has to do with kind of some discomfort. The number 7 in tarot, for the most part, does have to deal with some discomfort, some uncomfortable situations. So a little bit of imbalance going on with the number 7 as well. Number 8 is getting our balance back together again. It's double 4. 9 is building up to completion. So the number 9 is kind of could be asking for patience because we're almost there but not quite. It also could require us to persevere and push through to any projects that we need to be done. And the number 10 is completion and the end, the finish cycle, the completion, the end, and also the new beginning. Because in tarot, the number 10 will end and it will start back up with the ace again. So we do have that recycling of energy and rebirth going on. Now, another thing that I do want to mention, other than the numbers in numerology, is the court cards. So we have our page, our knight, our queen, and our king. Pages have to do with a message. Pages are messengers. They herald some new message of some aspect of our life. So depending on what court card it is, if it's cups, it's going to be about emotions. If it's pentacles, it's going to be about money. So relating the two. Knights has to do with energy and movement and our control of that movement. So most of the knight cards, like you see here, will be depicted riding a horse. That is symbolism of us being in control of that movement. Now, knights has to do with, once again, action and getting that energy in a direction that we want to go. The queen and the king are the top positions of the court card. They both symbolize the ultimate energies embodied by that suit card. So if you have a king card, it's going to be a king of cups. It's going to be an embodiment of someone who is in full control of their emotions, full control over their relationships with other people. And the queen, the difference between the two is the king is going to be talking about masculinity, the more masculine aspects, and the more the thinking. And the queen is going to be talking about the more feminine aspects and the more of the way of feeling rather than thinking, like the king. So that's the court cards. And if you combine, it's all about breaking tarot down. So learning the numbers, learning the major and minor arcana, learning all of your suits, and then learning your court cards. If you can learn all of those, then you can just simply read the tarot off of the images. And that brings me into different tarot decks and why it is so important to find a deck that works for you and why everyone shouldn't be reading the exact same deck all the time. Because it does offer you a change of your intuition, a change of things that are going to be brought out. And I did pull out, since it's February, and if you got my February newsletter, the card of the month is the Lovers. So I pulled 4 lover cards, the exact same card from 4 different tarot decks to show you guys. Now we have 2 that are very similar and 2 that are a little bit different. Now this depiction is the Rider-Waite-Smith. So we see the 2 figures standing here with the angel before them, the mountain, and the trees behind them. Now, this from the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck. This is from the Modern Witch tarot deck. So this one, you can just tell from the colors. So this one's more yellow, this one's more dark and contrasted. So depending on what your preference is, this may be a more accurate deck for you to be reading with because you vibe with these colors more. It picks up, you're more excited where this doesn't. Or this may not work for you and this will. So it's important to look at different decks. Now, they both offer different things as well. This one is offering the exact same images almost, but different colors in different sizes, different interpretations. So that's really going to change the reading for you. Now to compare these 2 lover cards, these do not have angels above them. They don't have the trees, they don't have the mountain. They're simply 2 close-ups of 2 figures, a male and a female, coming in union. So this is a different interpretation on the same card. Now, because it doesn't have those exacts, it doesn't have the angel above them, it doesn't have the trees in the background, does that mean that that Lovers card doesn't carry the same energy? No, it just is a different way of looking at it, a different point of view. And that is why it's important for you to explore and do your research on different tarot decks and different ones that you may like, because there have been situations in the past where I have gotten maybe a deck or 2 and the images were not as connected with me as I thought I was, and that is because I didn't do my research beforehand. So it's important to find a deck that works for you because that is how the reading is going to work. It's going to be working based off of the colors, the size of the images, the context of the images, and it's important for you to find a deck that works for you. Now, one last thing that I do want to wrap up with reading tarot cards is that it is important to, as well, when you first begin, I began by getting a lot of tarot books. So you'll see all right here, these are all my guidebooks that I started out with. And I bought a bunch of different guidebooks. And the guidebooks were extremely helpful for me because it was kind of just a shortcut around doing all of the hard work. Now, I still had to put the hard work in because even though I read what the meanings were, it was important for me to figure out and feel the meanings of the cards for myself rather than reading definitions every time I read. Now, that's not to discourage or discredit anyone that is using tarot guidebooks to do their readings. The first 2 years that I did my readings, I've been reading for 8 years, almost 9 now, but the first 2, I strictly read the guidebooks. So it's not to discredit, that is something that I did and it is a part of the journey of learning tarot. I will be coming back on to do another video about specific tarot guidebooks that I have and ones that have worked for me, maybe ones that haven't, but more specifically the ones that I love working with so that I can share them with you guys so that if anyone is interested in reading them or getting them for yourself to help you with your studying, that would be useful for you. So I hope that this video cleared up a few things with tarot reading, and I know that this was just a brief glimpse of tarot reading. It obviously is not a full video about tarot reading, but I did want to give some insight on reading the cards themselves. So thank you guys for watching this video so much. If you would like to follow me on my Instagram, it is Southern Magick with a K at the end, and I look forward to hearing what you guys think in the comments.